For over a decade, Jeffrey Dahmer lived a life of disturbing duality. To his neighbors, he was quiet, awkward, even forgettable. But behind the door of his small apartment in Milwaukee, he committed some of the most horrifying crimes in modern history. 17 young men and boys lost their lives to his brutality, and yet Dahmer remained hidden in plain sight. Until one July night in 1991, when a single survivor escaped, and the full horror of apartment 213 was finally exposed. This is the story of how Jeffrey Dahmer was caught, and how one man's courage ended a nightmare. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born in 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. From the outside, his childhood seemed ordinary. But inside the Dahmer household, tensions were high. His parents' marriage was falling apart, filled with arguments and instability. Even as a boy, Jeffrey displayed troubling behavior. At age 4, he underwent double hernia surgery, after which family members said he became increasingly withdrawn. He collected animal bones, fascinated by the sound they made when they clinked together. Neighbors would later recall that he dissected dead animals, storing their remains in jars. By high school, Dahmer was known as a loner. He drank heavily, even sneaking alcohol into class. Teachers described him as intelligent but unmotivated. He would mimic people with disabilities for attention, earning the nickname "Doing a Dahmer" among classmates. At 18, just weeks after his parents' divorce had left him alone in the family home, Dahmer committed his first murder. He picked up hitchhiker Stephen Hicks, invited him back for drinks, and then bludgeoned him to death when Hicks tried to leave. Dahmer dismembered the body and buried it in the backyard. This was the beginning of a pattern that would last for 13 years. Over the next decade, Dahmer's killings escalated. By the mid-1980s, he had developed a method. He lured young men, many from marginalized communities, back to his apartment. He used sleeping pills and alcohol to incapacitate them. After killing them, he would photograph the bodies, keep body parts as trophies, and in some cases, even consume them. Neighbors often noticed strange things. Foul odors seeped through the walls of the Oxford apartments. Residents complained to the building manager. Dahmer explained it away with excuses: spoiled meat, a broken refrigerator, or even tropical fish that had died. Somehow the complaints never led to closer investigation. In May 1991, Dahmer nearly got caught. 14-year-old Konarak Synthosamphone managed to escape Dahmer's apartment, naked, drugged, and bleeding. 2 women called police when they found the boy wandering in the street. But when officers arrived, Dahmer convinced them that Konarak was his 19-year-old boyfriend and that they had simply had a fight. Despite the women's protests, police returned the child to Dahmer's custody. Just hours later, Konarak was dead. That decision, dismissing the women's concerns and ignoring Konarak's obvious injuries, would haunt the Milwaukee Police Department forever. On the evening of July 22nd, Dahmer was prowling outside a Milwaukee bar when he met 3 men. Dahmer offering them $100 to come back to his apartment for photos and beer. He persuaded one of them, the 32-year-old man, Tracy Edwards. As soon as Edwards stepped inside apartment 213, he sensed danger. The smell was overpowering, a mix of chemicals and decay. In the corner sat a large blue barrel filled with acid. Strange tools and boxes cluttered the small space. Dahmer gave Edwards a drink, but then pulled out a knife. He pressed it to Edwards' chest and ordered him into the bedroom. What Edwards saw there froze him with fear. On the wall were Polaroid photographs, dozens of them, showing bodies in grotesque poses, mutilated and dismembered. Edwards realized he was looking at evidence of previous victims. For the next several hours, Dahmer kept Edwards captive. He tried to handcuff him, managing to clamp one cuff onto his wrist. Edwards, however, remained calm. He engaged Dahmer in conversation, saying things like, "You don't have to hurt me, I'm your friend." He tried to humanize himself, to buy time, and to look for a chance to run. Eventually, when Dahmer's attention slipped, Edwards acted. He struck Dahmer in the face, pushed him aside, and bolted out the front door. Barefoot and terrified, he sprinted down the street until he spotted two Milwaukee police officers. With the handcuffs still dangling from his wrist, he begged for help. At first, the officers doubted his story, but they agreed to follow him back to Dahmer's apartment. When they entered, the smell hit them immediately. One officer looked around the bedroom, noticing the Polaroid photographs scattered in a drawer. At first, he thought they might be staged. Then he looked closer. These were not fake. The officer turned to his partner and said, "These are real." Within moments, Dahmer was handcuffed. As detectives searched the apartment, they uncovered a scene beyond imagination. A human head in the refrigerator, 3 more in the freezer, jars containing preserved hearts and organs, multiple skeletons and skulls displayed in the closet, the blue barrel in the corner filled with decomposing torsos submerged in acid. In total, police collected nearly 80 pieces of human remains. Every corner of the apartment held evidence of horror. Even seasoned investigators were shaken. One later said it was like stepping into hell itself. News of Dahmer's arrest spread worldwide within hours. The details of his crimes horrified the public, but also raised critical questions. How could this go on for so long? Why did police fail to act when neighbors complained? And how could officers return a child to a man who was, in reality, his killer? In 1992, Dahmer stood trial for 15 murders. The courtroom was packed with journalists, grieving families, and a shocked community. Many family members of the victims gave emotional statements, some screaming at Dahmer, others breaking down in tears. The jury found him guilty, and he was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms, over 900 years in prison. He showed little emotion as the sentence was read, but prison would not be his final chapter. In November 1994, just 2 years into his sentence, Dahmer was attacked and killed by a fellow inmate. His death closed one of the darkest cases in American crime history, but the trauma for families, relatives, and friends remains. Dahmer's case left a lasting scar, not only because of the brutality, but because of the failures that allowed it to continue. Many of his victims were young men of color, some immigrants, some from the LGBTQ community. Advocates argued that systemic racism and homophobia led police to dismiss concerns that could have saved lives. The women who tried to protect Conorak were ignored. Neighbors who reported smells and noises were brushed aside. Dahmer thrived in the gaps left by indifference. Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes remain some of the most disturbing in modern history. For years, he lived undetected, his apartment hiding unimaginable horrors. In the end, it wasn't police investigations, not surveillance, not detective work. It was the courage of one man, Tracy Edwards, who managed to escape and expose him. Edwards' bravery ended a killing spree that had lasted over a decade. His story is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, one act of courage can change everything. If you like this video, subscribe to Grimoire for more true crime stories, unsolved mysteries, and the hidden corners of human nature. Thanks for watching.